Dave Abrams.
And I'm Kristin Lagana. Welcome to Arundel County Week in Review. In this episode, we'll talk to you about how to become a watershed steward and show you resources available for suicide awareness. But first, making headlines this week. It's been a really tough several days as we all grieve over the loss of 5 people who were part of the fabric of our community. The day after we taped last week's show, a gunman entered the offices of the Capital and Maryland Gazette newspapers and opened fire. The man had a long-held grudge against the paper and carried out his rage, killing 5 innocent people. Our message to the survivors and the community is this: we are with you, we hurt with you, and we will get you through this. 2 special funds have been established to aid the families. You can find out how to donate by visiting the Community Foundation of Anne Arundel County website at cfaac.org. The memorial service for Community News and editor Wendy Winters will be held noon tomorrow at Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts, located at 801 Chase Street in Annapolis, with a reception following at 3 p.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Annapolis. Now, Dave, I know you worked alongside some of the victims. Can you tell us some more about them?
I did. I was a reporter at the Capitol about 10 years ago, and there's been so much written about it, so much really well-written things to really capture these great people.
Touching tributes for each of them.
Amazing. And I didn't know all of them personally, but particularly Wendy Winters. I worked alongside her, always ran into her in town all the time ever since then. I actually just ran into her a little over a week ago in downtown Annapolis, and we chatted, and she was just as Wendy as ever, is what I tell everyone. I mean, Wendy was high energy, tall, always doing 10 things at once.
Very creative too. I mean, she was a big supporter of the live music scene around here.
She was into everything,
yeah.
And she was a prolific writer. I mean, it was written in one of the profiles that she would work on the weekend and go file 3 or 4 stories in the weekend where nobody was really working. So, I mean, she was so dedicated to everything. She was dedicated to her kids. She was dedicated to pretty much to everyone. And I should also mention, Kristin, I'm sure you've seen the coverage, you've seen the survivors interviewed on television, and we have a church and state separation because I work for the government now and they work for the newspaper, but I mean, I have some lifelong friends there that survived this and are hurting really bad right now. And I couldn't possibly mention them all, but Paul Gillespie and Josh McCarrow and Pat Ferguson, and I could go on and on, but I mean, a lot of really, really dear friends of mine that I'm just so proud of how they've responded, and I know how hard it is for them, and they go out there and they do their job even though it's so difficult.
That's the part that got me, and I really respect that they were able to do that. I can't imagine how I would react in the similar position, but for them to have gone through what they went through that day and said, well, this is what we do, and we're putting out a paper, that was wow. And setting up the office in the back of the truck, and Pat's pickup truck. And we spoke to a mental health expert today, and he was talking about how we always, your gut reaction is to be upset and sometimes get angry and expect sort of answers. How does this not happen again? That's what we always talk about. And really the most important thing is that we're there for each other and that we support the people who survived this and we remember the people we lost. And the best thing we can do to stop these things from happening is to talk to each other and to support each other. So, easy answers don't come. It's not as simple as changing a law or doing this or that. There's a lot more to it. It's very complex. So right now, even a week now after this occurred, I think we're still in a mourning stage, and I think it's appropriate, and I'm really impressed by how the community is responding. And yeah, I mean, I think there's still some shock going on right now about how close this was right in our backyard.
Yep.
So
5 minutes from my office, 5 minutes from your office.
Yep. I mean, it was a very sobering sight to see just the names on the obituary page, and was the opinion page. And
the editorial page was blank, and then just had the signing of the names.
And that was very powerful.
Right.
But the coverage, I really do appreciate that we haven't said the name of the gunman. So, and I
nor are we going to.
No.
We have that luxury on our show. We don't. We do what we want.
That's right.
But anyway, we support you all,
Yes.
and we appreciate the work you do every day to bring us the information we need to know.
Our
So
thoughts
thank you for that.
with your families, and Dave, I'm sorry about the loss of your
Thank
friends.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, there was a moment of levity from the tragedy on Tuesday as the Lord Stanley Cup paid a visit to City Dock. Capital sports writer Johnny Mack, also known as John McNamara, would have gotten a kick out of this one for sure. The Cup was brought to Annapolis by longtime equipment manager Craig Woody Leidig, who you can imagine is excited after waiting 29 long years in his career for a championship. There have been so many traditions associated with the Stanley Cup. One of the oldest, started by the 1896 Winnipeg Victorias, say that 5 times fast, dictates that the winning team drinks champagne from the top bowl after their victory.
I don't think people know
We've
about
never
this.
seen that happen.
I don't think people know about this, and people have been going crazy seeing what people have done with the Stanley Cup since it's, I guess, closer for us this year because we finally got it. But
And
people
now we got it. We don't know what to do with it.
Well, I mean, people were seeing them drinking out of it and going crazy about it, and we don't treat the Heisman Trophy that way. We don't, but.
No, it doesn't. The
that
Heisman,
is-
how would you drink out of the Heisman?
Well, you wouldn't. But I mean, saying.
It's metal. It's kind of gross.
But
isn't
saying the way that they've been handling the cup, it's tradition.
it? Right.
And that's
it's a hockey
hockey.
thing. It's a hockey
It's
thing.
hockey. Yeah.
Well, also we have some more fun facts. I got these all from Wikipedia.
Exciting, so
I
you
did
know it's true.
Some in-depth research. The cup is also traditionally presented on the ice to the captain of the winning team after the series winning game, and each member of the victorious club carries the trophy around the rink. And here's where Annapolis comes in. The Stanley Cup championship team is allotted 100 days during the off-season to pass around the cup, including the team's parade, days with sponsors, and a day or so with each player and a member of the team's staff. So thanks to the Caps, and thank you, Woody, for sharing some smiles with the people of Annapolis this week. We really needed it, and it turns out Woody actually did an interview at the Capitol right before the tragedy occurred.
I had
so
thought-
he was all choked up today, and
Yeah.
it was a great thing he did. So
I had thought that the days of my feed being flooded with red was done, and nope,
no, it's back.
it's back. But
And it's so
great.
nice, and
I think
that's a
it's
good
so
point
wonderful.
because, I mean, with so many friends and colleagues that work at the Capitol, my entire feed just every day for the last week has been on this subject, and it's just, it's hard anyway, and it kind of makes you, it's a weird thing with loss. I mean, it kind of makes you feel good, it kind of makes you feel sad,
Yeah.
and brings it back again. And,
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you to the Capitals
needed the sunshine,
for
so
doing
thank
that.
you.
Everybody really appreciated it.
Very much appreciated. Well, if you're thinking about getting out on the water this summer, there's a new place to do that in your kayak or canoe. Recreation and Parks opened a new launch at Downs Park, and this is part of a countywide initiative to increase public water access on all of the beautiful rivers and creeks in Anne Arundel County. Are you ready to get out there, Dave?
Absolutely. Actually,
Yeah.
very apropos,
Yeah?
Kat and I just purchased kayaks.
Whoa!
We're very, very
Are you
excited.
going to go up to Downs Park and do it back in your old hood, or are you just going to stay down in Annapolis?
Well, the thing is, from my neighborhood, and this is just by looking
you
at
can
the
just
GPS,
walk down
there's
and-
like all kinds of little nooks and crannies and
Yeah.
places to go explore there. And,
maybe you can
we
go
want to
up
get
that
buffed for
way.
the wedding, so
Yeah.
we figure a little
Go
kayaking.
all the way up to Downs and see if you can check out the access point.
We will do that. Well, we're going to take a quick break, but when we return, we will talk to Juliet Page from the Watershed Stewards Academy about how you can make a difference for our environment. Take a look at the community calendar for events happening around town, and we'll be right back.
If you smoked, this new lung cancer screening could save your life. Visit SaveByTheScan.org.
Well, welcome back. Joining us in the studio this week, we're delighted to have Miss Juliet Page from the Watershed Stewards Academy here in the studio. Juliet, how are you?
Great, thank you.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations on 10 years of Watershed Steward Academy. This is exciting.
Thank you.
And you are a master steward.
That's correct.
Which takes a lot more training, classes, etc., experience. So you're one of the top dogs. So we are very lucky today.
That's right.
We're talking to a true expert. Tell us about the Watershed Stewards and your role.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Watershed Stewards Academy is all about action and community engagement. And we are here to help our neighbors and our communities do best practices to help reduce the pollution entering our creeks, waterways, rivers, and help improve the health of the bay.
Which is very important for where we're at in our proximity to the Chesapeake. And you're going to recruit your next class, right?
Yes, we have a series of 5 information sessions coming up over the course of the summer. And
One's tomorrow at the Crofton Library.
yes, thank you.
Exciting.
And we have other ones coming up at Homestead Gardens. Our website has a lot of information. People that are interested in becoming Master Watershed Stewards need to go to one of the information sessions and submit an application. They're due in September. And we'll be selecting for our 11th class of Watershed Stewards.
That was incredible. How big generally are the classes?
They're somewhere between 20 and 35 people.
So there's a lot of interest in becoming a watershed steward.
There is a lot of interest, yes.
Very great.
But
Yes.
that's important to remember, that you have to go to one of the sessions. You can't just like sign up online and all of a sudden you're a steward. You have to
No,
go.
you're not
Correct.
in like Flynn until you do some of the classes and the sessions.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we
yes.
will remind everyone that you have to go to these. We will
Yes.
tell them the first one tomorrow. We'll go to that.
That's Crofton Library.
That's at the Crofton Library.
And then Homestead Gardens, which I love. Is that the Davidsville location?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, tell us about some of the projects you've had an opportunity to work on. Which ones stand out to you?
So when I first became a Master Watershed Steward, we had to do a capstone project. So I put in a community rain garden in my local community. And since then, I've been involved in a bunch of projects. I've been very involved in the Mill Creek restoration project. That project's been ongoing for 10 years, multiple phases. And I've also been involved in establishing a community engagement program to surveys for entire neighborhoods to get the communities more involved in what they can do. So we can have neighbors putting in best practices, rain gardens, rainscaping, rain barrels, and we also can help with community assessments and their common grounds to give them some advice on things they can do to help reduce some of the stormwater getting into our bays. And the community right next to mine is Twin Harbors, and we did an engagement with them probably 5 or 6 years ago, and they've just taken it and run with it. They have put in so many, they've put in so many best practices on their common grounds. The neighborhood is all involved. They've had rain barrel sales, and they've put in 2 absolutely beautiful living shorelines. They just finished one up this spring. It's right at the entrance to Mill Creek and Dividing Creek, right across from the, oh gosh, I forgot the name of it. No, right across from the restaurant down the end.
Oh,
the Point.
The Point.
I'm
We all
sorry.
know the Point.
Yes, Nutty Buddies.
Yeah.
Nutty
But it's beautiful, and this is what WSA is about. It's getting people involved and engaged. You know, I'm a firm believer that people want to do the right thing. They just need a little bit of help and understanding and some education as to, you know, maybe you can cut back on the fertilizer, pick up your dog waste. Instead of having your downspouts running into your driveway and straight into the storm drain, have it run into a grassy area or a garden. Put a little lull in and put some plants, native plants or even non-native plants, to catch that rainwater so it infiltrates into the ground. And these things are making a big difference.
Well, I think you mentioned a really good example. I mean, a lot of us remember that Mill Creek was one of the worst spills that Anne Arundel County ever had, and it took years to clean up from that.
And the process is still going.
Yeah.
The process is still going. We have another phase of restoration coming on this winter in the dormant season when all the crabs and the critters are burrowed into sleep. That's when we can do a lot of the restoration in the headwaters. And so we have another phase of it coming. So it's been more than a decade that we've been working on that. That's what originally got me involved in this. So it's been very rewarding. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of work, a lot of time spending.
Especially with the heat we've had lately. Are you out much, or is right now it's kind of a
We're watering the plants and tending to the
The
garden.
critters are out.
The critters are
If
out.
the critters are out, we can be out too.
No, they work when the critters are dormant.
Oh, okay.
Well, that's when you do the work in the headwaters
Yes.
to minimize the impacts. But there's a lot of great events going on around the whole county. A lot of watershed stewards. We're hoping to get a watershed steward in every community. Any community can be where you live, where you work, or where you worship. We have a Riverside Congregations program where we've engaged watershed stewards in individual religious congregations around the whole county to make improvements on their church or their synagogue land to help reduce the stormwater runoff. There's so many simple things that people can do. They just need to learn about it.
I mean, with classes of 20 to 30, I don't think that's a hard goal to try and find someone for each, to represent each community, right?
No, we have over 200 master watershed stewards in the county so far.
Wow.
So, the idea is about building capacity for the county so that everybody has somebody local they can talk to that is aware of, where the ravine is behind that row of houses over there and things you can do to help reduce the runoff. If somebody's doing some gardening, to maybe make slightly different decisions that will help improve the bay. I mean, we've been seeing real measurable improvements in the bay health.
Yeah.
This is the first year things have actually gotten better.
I think we had a better report card grade this year.
Exactly. All of these little things we're doing are actually, making a measurable difference. It's working. We've got to build up the momentum and keep doing that.
You're doing a great job, and I think you guys do a great job of getting the word out too, because every time that we have an outreach event, I always see Watershed Stewards Academy there too. So I think a lot of folks will definitely say that, you guys definitely are great about getting the word out and getting people interested in the organization. So we talked about the health of the bay. What about the improvement of our other waterways? Can you speak more to that?
Well, everybody lives in a watershed, and your property, the water's going to run off it and go somewhere. It's either going to go to a creek, to a stream, to a river, and eventually into the Chesapeake Bay. And so by working in our own backyards and our own communities, we can affect change in the bay. It's, you can't take on just the big projects.
Nope.
You have to take on all the smaller projects as well.
Right. And if someone is interested in becoming a watershed steward, what's the best way to reach out?
You can go to our website, aawsa.org, and there's information about our upcoming training sessions and application. Applications are due in early September for our next class of Master Watershed Stewards. We also have a calendar of events where watershed stewards have all of their projects going on around the whole county throughout the whole year. Some of them are educational events, some are installation of rain gardens and projects and planting and all sorts of things. And so there's lots of information there. People can show up and help. And
you guys have a
bring
Facebook
their
presence
kids.
too.
Yes.
So that's good that you do you advertise the classes on there as well?
Yes.
Very good. So you can find their Facebook group too, Watershed Stewards Academy. Any upcoming projects that you're really looking forward to? We talked about your past ones that you're a fan of, but anything that you're really excited about?
So I've been pretty involved in getting this next round of Milk Creek restoration projects. The timing will be over this winter season, so I've been engaged in giving testimony in front of some of the regulatory agencies to convince them to allow this kind of project to go forward. And
it's amazing how hard it is to get permits for a great project like that. I've talked to the river keepers about that. It's like you're trying to build a living shoreline. It's harder to get a permit. I literally had a river keeper tell me it's easier to get a permit for a Walmart than to do a short living shoreline.
It is, because if you're in the tidal critical area and a wetland, there's multiple agencies you need to get approval from to basically do anything. I mean, the laws and the rules are there for a reason.
Sure.
It's a process. It's definitely a process. But with a lot of community interest and engagement and going to testify at the meetings and having neighbors send in letters and emails and calling people, we're managing to get these things moving forward. But it takes a lot of community engagement to make things happen.
And Kristin, before we go, shout out to Suzanne Etkin.
Hey, Suzanne.
The boss. We appreciate all the work she does too.
Yeah, and all the work you do, Juliet. Thank you for coming on the show and keeping us updated on what's going on and all the work that you've been doing.
Suzanne was one of our founding members 10 years ago when the Watershed Stewards Academy was started. It was
so she's also a master steward.
Oh yeah, she is the master of all masters.
Well, and to quote what Juliet told us off camera, everyone is a steward of the bay. Now we want you to become a master steward.
Yes, if you're
So that's what
interested,
you
make
do.
sure that you follow up on their website, attend one of the upcoming sessions. And Juliet, thank you so much for stopping by
Thank you
this
for
week.
having us.
We really appreciate you being here. We'll be right back with more Week in Review right after this. Don't go anywhere.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for information on how to provide even better care for the person who wants to care of you.
Welcome back. We've been talking quite a bit lately about mental health. Our own Pat Daly talked with our Darian Boone about suicide prevention. Pat?
Thanks, guys. Today we're here to talk about suicide prevention, a serious issue that's across the country, with Mr. Ralph Boone, who's going to tell us about Suicide Prevention Day that's coming up in the area in Severn. Mr. Boone, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me today.
Why don't you tell us a little bit more about Suicide Prevention Day?
Well, Suicide Prevention Day actually came to a thought of my mind because we actually do a lot of different events. This event actually came to me for the television. I was standing in a bank, and I'm hearing to my right side, and it's talking about suicide. And I'm pretty spiritual, so I said, God must want me to do this next. So that's how it came about, basically.
Yeah, great. So who exactly is sponsoring it?
I have an organization called United Community of Love United, and that's on my T-shirt here. And what we do is do stuff in the community of Anne Arundel County, and that's who's the one sponsoring, as well as the Covenant of Life House Ministries. They're a church right there in Hanover. And we also have the Cutting Heads Barbershop right there across from Van Brocklin High School.
So what's going to happen on Suicide Prevention Day? What activities are you going to...
So I really took my time on thinking how to do this. As you stated, it's a very sensitive subject matter. So I wanted to actually think this out. I prayed it out and said, I really want to make sure that the verbiage is correct, that the things that we're doing are correct, where it's showing actually just love and harmony. So the things that we're going to do is, first we're probably going to open up with prayer, and then we'll actually speak about suicide prevention. Only because I actually was in a frame of mind at one time in 1982, but thank God I was able to pull out of it just by a still voice saying, life is like an on and off switch. You could turn it on or you could turn it off. So what we're going to do also until that, I'm going to actually open up the floor if anyone wants to speak about someone they lost, or they have a prayer, or they have something to say. So what we want to do is just feel like there's somebody actually in the crowd that's actually wanting to save themselves in some manner, and they want to hear something that's good for their soul. So we want to actually be sensitive to this and reach out and touch somebody who's actually there, that we're going to think in that frame of mind that we're talking to somebody who's actually thought of it or thinking of it, and we want to give them all the information that's there. We also have Anne Arundel County Mental Health. They're going to be there as well.
Now, it's something that suicide prevention is definitely something that has no boundaries. Yes. It has no boundaries. So tell us how we can learn more about suicide prevention in your organization.
Well, I also thought about that, love has to do with humanity, and with the humanity comes love. So I always felt that to save someone in a manner of thinking negatively, just show them love. We just need more love and humanity, not just in Anne Arundel County, but in the world. So I would like to spread that notion and thought that to people that, hey, it doesn't take much to share love. It doesn't take love to show. It take a lot to show hate also, but let's show some love, and maybe we could diminish this process of suicide, because it's really, really bad in the area, as we know.
Yeah, the saying that there's no boundaries to what someone can do as long as they have the courage to try is definitely feeding into that message that you're sharing. How can we learn more?
Well, also, you can always Google information for Anne Arundel County mental health. There's a lot of help out there. A lot of people don't realize that Google is a great tool to find something quick and fast. Also, you have 911, which is very fast, in that they can actually get to you even faster. So if you know of someone that's in such a situation that they're having mental health issues, please notify someone ASAP, and that would be 911, the quickest way to do it. But getting yourself educated about suicide awareness would best to be just Google or get in touch with Anne Arundel County Mental Health.
Do you have a website that you'd like to share with us, or a social media page, Facebook page?
Well, the Community of Love United has a Facebook page. You can just type in Community of Love United. It'll show all the events that we have did or done or about to do. That will give you a lot of information to share. My phone number's on there, and I'd love for people to just call me just to get information if they don't feel comfortable with calling the actual agencies. It's just a barrier between not feeling uncomfortable. I'm very open to that. Also, by just coming out or sitting or email, I have my email in there. They could text me. That's communityofloveunited@gmail.com.
Great. Well, serious issues being discussed in Severn. We appreciate you coming on today, Mr. Boone. Thanks very much for your time. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Pat. This is a great resource for the community, and thanks to Community of Love. So I have to say, I was a little disappointed in how many areas, or how many places, stores, etc. I tried to hit up to find a copy of Friday's Capital, because I wanted to show my support.
Because
by
Chase
picking
Cook,
up,
my man, said we're putting out a damn paper.
And Chase, I wanted to pick up a paper and show my support. So I went to several locations, and I knew some places would probably be out, but what I didn't expect was how many people said they no longer sell newspapers, any of them. So if you're out there and you really want to show some support right now, I can't recommend enough becoming an online subscriber, picking up a paper where you know you still can. It's the best way to show support right now.
You're so right, and you know what? People won't appreciate it until it's gone, and then you realize ain't nobody paying attention.
No.
And now we don't know what our leaders are doing. We don't know what's going on in other countries.
I had a friend tell me the other day, she said, you know, I picked up a newspaper and I really enjoyed reading it this morning. I said, that's rare.
Imagine that, a newspaper. Isn't that quaint?
She said, I got to do the crossword puzzle and everything.
That's right.
So,
support your newspapers, everybody.
Support our local publications.
Well, that wraps up this week's edition of Week in Review. You can watch this episode and archived episodes online anytime on Facebook or YouTube by simply searching for Arundel TV. Please tune in again next week for more highlights and news from around the county, and we'll see you next time.